Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sociology Analytica. This is Pooja Prasanna, your sociology faculty. So, today I'm going to discuss the second question on Karl Marx. The question is critically assess the Marxian theory of alienation, which is for a 15 mark. Okay, critically assess Marxian theory of alienation. So, here the question is very specific. We have to talk about alienation, but then you have to critically assess about alienation. Simple. Okay. It's a 15 marker question, so you can write around 200 words, somewhere around 200 words you can write. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the answer with alienation. So as it is Karl Marx or any other six thinkers, so what you have to do is please do mention the book title. Wherever the topic is coming from, please do mention book title, because at least you'll be getting half marks extra if you mention a book title. Fine. So Karl Marx has dealt about alienation in the book Economical and Political Manuscript 1844. So please write the book title, then go on and explain or give a definition what is alienation. Okay. So here I have taken the definition given by Marx himself in the book Economical and Political Manuscript. How is he defining alienation as? Alienation is a feeling of estrangement or disenchantment from a group, situation, society, or even within oneself. It refers to a situation of what? Powerlessness, isolation, meaninglessness experienced by people when they confront to a social situation. See, I'm pretty sure now you know, if you're writing this answer, that means you must be knowing what is alienation. Alienation is basically feeling of hopelessness in a situation, in a social institution where you feel that you can't do anything anymore. Okay, you have the feeling of that I have to give up now. That is basically alienation. Write a simple definition. Though it is critically assessed, I have already told about how to tackle this question. Whenever a critical analysis comes, what you have to do? You also have to talk about that particular concept, then and go criticize later on. Okay. So let's now see the alienation. What is alienation? See, it is a 15 marker question. If it is a 10 marker question, you can decide whether to write this or whether to write this. Okay, based on how much space is left. As it is a 15 marker question, I'm pretty sure we would be having enough space to write about what is alienation. So what I've taken is, again, I have picked up few things. Marx tells that alienation happens in two ways. What is the first way? First way is that in any given mode of production, alienation increases with the time. That is, when you enter a mode of production. So let's say that you have entered a feudalistic mode of production. Okay, so initially you would be feeling very happy, because before this, so we had slave society, so people were treated as slaves, but now they are free serfs. Okay, the slaves, whosoever were the slaves, they became serfs in the feudal society. So initially they were happy with the system. As the time passed, they also started feeling suffocated. Okay, why? Because too much of work, too much of tax, too much of restrictions. So everything started happening and they became overwhelmed and suppressed. So what is it telling? In a given mode of production, initially suppression or alienation will be less, and as the time passes, alienation will become more. Then its degree increases as mode of production changes. That is, from one mode to other, that is hunting gathering to slave to feudal to capitalism. So as you change from one to other, alienation actually increases as the mode of production changes. Okay, so these are the two ways where alienation happens. The next, he also talks about the dimension of alienation, that is in specifically capitalism. So this is with respect to all the mode of production. Now he comes and in detail he talks about alienation which occurs in capitalistic society alone. So what he says is that first is alienation from the process of production. There are four dimensions: alienation from the process of production, alienation from the product, alienation from fellow worker, and then finally alienation from oneself and one's own potential. Okay, so what you can do is, I'm pretty sure you would be knowing all these things by now. After writing this heading, just don't leave it here and there. You just write at least one statement about this. Okay, that is alienation from the process of production. What does that mean? That means that worker cannot give suggestion about the quality, about the quantity of the product. He cannot give any suggestion at all. So when he is not able to give any suggestion, he'll start feeling alienated from the process of production. So like this, just write one statement for each of this dimension. Okay, see, everything is available in the textbook. You can just pick it up and write it directly. Fine. Then finally you can come to the criticism part. In criticism, again, it will be available in your text. write as many criticism as it is possible. And also I'll tell you one thing, when you write criticism, at least for 6 thinkers, make sure to add the critic's name also, because the more you add critic's name, the better the marks will be. Fine. The first and foremost critic I've taken here is Durkheim. So what Durkheim says alienation can be corrected through existing structure itself. What Marx says alienation can only be corrected by what? By revolution. But then Durkheim is telling, no, it's not required. We need not to go for revolution. Whatever existing structure is there, okay, societal norms is there, from that only we can correct the alienation. The next is given by Karl Popper. What Karl Popper is telling, alienation can be breeding ground for creativity. See, sometimes when you feel so much alienated, okay, when you feel that, okay, there is no dead end, you have reached a dead end. See, it's not like always people will give up. So what people will do, most of the people will also think creatively, because at the end of the day, you need to lead your life, isn't it? You cannot simply give up. What will you do? Even if you reach the dead end, you'll think creatively and you will start a new life. This is what Karl Popper is telling, okay. The next criticism is given by Galtorp. Galtorp, again in his affluent worker study, what he says, work is not an end in itself, okay, work is just a means to an end. So we should not think that, okay, a labor or a worker or a proletariat will only be concentrating in the factory. No, he thinks that his life is beyond the factory system. He thinks that his life is actually where it is. His life is in his family. His happiness is in his family. Okay, did you understand this? Next criticism is given by what? C.W. Mills, that is C. Wright Mills. He says that the white collar workers also faces alienation. See, Karl Marx, he says that only in capitalistic society, only the working class people will feel alienation. But then C.W. Mills is telling that is totally not true. Even the white collar workers, that is the people who are in service industry, they also, they also have to go through alienation. How? See, if you look at service industry, you have to present yourself in a particular way only. You have to smile to people no matter what they say, isn't it? So all this thing is what? Putting a face which you are actually not. So they also go through alienation. Then lastly, I've talked from Robert Blauner. Robert Blauner in his book Alienation and Freedom, what he says that alienation actually depends on technology and its use. The better technology, less alienation, and less machine, that is connection with the machine decides the alienation. The worker who has more connection with the machine will feel less alienated. The worker who has less connection with the machine will feel more alienated. Okay, so these are some criticism of alienation. Then finally, how to conclude? You can write that yes, Karl Marx, whatever he did study, it's a multidimensional concept. Alienation is a multidimensional concept. Though he did not take multi-dimension, he only took one single dimension. What was the dimension? From the class perspective, from the economical division perspective, he only studied from that perspective. But we still see a lot of, there is a lot of lockdowns and strikes and protests, etc., from the workers' point of view, isn't it? So even in 21st century also, we do still see all these things which is still continuing. So we can't say that completely Karl Marx theories, it's not relevant. Though it has a lot of its problem, though a lot of critics has pointed a lot of problem, but still we can use Karl Marx theory at least in order to understand the today's condition. Okay, so something like this you can conclude. Fine. So again, it's a very simple question, direct question, but it is a very important question. So that is why I've given now. Anyway, so in case if you have any further doubt, you can just ask in the comment section. Okay, so tomorrow I'll be giving the last question on Karl Marx. Fine. So thank you all. I'll see you all tomorrow.